Hey there, everybody. We're going to look at the fourth game from PT71 today. This is the Museum Curator. I'll read through it with everybody, and then we'll get into how to attack this game. So a museum curator is arranging 7 paintings, a Morisot, a Pissarro, a Renoir, a Sisley, a Turner, and a Vuillard, and a Whistler. The paintings will be arranged in a horizontal row of 7 positions, with the first position being closest to the entrance and the 7th being furthest from the entrance. The arrangement is subject to the following constraints, and we'll deal with the rules in a second. So first job, as always, is to determine whether this is an ordering game or this is a grouping game. And if you look at the language of the stimulus, you can usually find out. You're looking for things like days of the week or orders in a line or months of the year or something that tells you that the position of the variables matters. And in this case, it says that they are going to be arranged in a horizontal row of 7 positions, which means we know we have an ordering game. So our first job is to create a board, a table, with which we will solve the game. So here's my horizontal line to go first. There we go. And then I'm going to number it at the top there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. As we always do. And let me zoom out a little bit so that we get that in a good position on our page. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to create the table like we normally do with vertical lines so that we have plenty of room to show solutions in our table. So there's 1, 2. Let's get that one straight, huh? There we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There we have it. Okay, so that's what our table is going to look like. And then from there, we're going to check our stimulus to see if there are any complications, anything weird going on with the game. So the things we're looking for are all the variables going to be put on the page? Can any variable be put twice on the page? Does every spot on our board, is it going to get used? Is any spot going to be used twice? So we take a look at our variables, which I'll list out, which are M, P, R, S, T, V, and W. And what does it say about those variables? The paintings, all of the paintings, not some of the paintings, the paintings will be arranged in a horizontal row of 7 positions. That's it. Which means all 7 paintings are going to be there and they're going to be arranged in this order. So nothing's used twice, nothing is left out, no spots used twice, no spot is left out. So this is good. The whole game is 1-to-1, which is what we like. It keeps things simple. And then we're going to go about writing out our rules. And just so you guys remember, we write the rules out even though they're on the page because what we want is a visual representation of the rule that we can interpret immediately rather than having to read the rule over and over and over again and having to reinterpret it every time. So we come up with shorthand with visual representations of the rules so that the rules are immediately available to us. So first, T is closer to the entrance than W. Remember, closer means closer to 1. That's what we determined. So T is closer than W. That means they're going to be in this order, and we will represent it like that. That's how I represent it. I know other people have other notations for it. That's fine as long as your notations are consistent. R is closer than M with exactly 1 in between them. So, again, there are lots of ways to do this. My chosen way is to write it like that. R space with a 1, M. P and S must be next to each other. And so we know that we are going to have PS or SP. If V is not third, then it is fourth. Okay, so if V is not third, then V... Ooh, sorry, that's a 4. Then V is 4, and contrapositively, if V is not 4, well, then V must be 3. Which leaves me only 2 possibilities. Either V is 3 or V is 4. Those are the only choices. I have nothing else available. Okay, so we have a choice at this point. We can go through the deductive process and see if we can't find something out about this game, find out some ways that the rules interact with each other and interact with the board such that there's more to learn, or we can dive right into the questions, what I call the brute force method. I prefer, if I don't see something obvious, and right now I don't see anything obvious on the page, to just go right in and start answering questions. I certainly could put what I call a proximity rule in. I could put V above the 3 and the 4 positions and write an arrow to one of the two of them. I certainly could go through the process of figuring out where R and M can go given that. But there seem to be a lot of possibilities, and it's not straightforward to me, so I'm just going to go right in and start looking at questions. And so the first question I'm going to look at is this one, number 17, which is the complete and accurate list question, right? And all we do with this question is one by one we compare our rules against the list of choices and see which choices get eliminated because of my rule. So I'm going to start with T has to be before W, and I'll check it against everything from A to E. Is T before W in A? Yes. Is T before W in B? No. And so for number 17, I can eliminate B. I'll put in my A, B, C, D, E in there just so that we have all of them. Is T before W in C? Yes. In D? Yes. In E? Yes. So I've used my first rule, and I've been able to eliminate B. I go on to my second rule. Is R before M with exactly 1 in between? Not in A. A is out. In B it's good, but it doesn't matter because I already eliminated B. I don't have to look at it anymore. In C it's good, in D it's good, and in E it's good. So I go on to rule 3. P has to be next to S. I don't have to check A and B, but I can go on to C. P is next to S and C. P is not next to S in D, so D gets crossed out. But P is next to S and E, and so I try my last rule. V has to either be third or fourth. In C, V is fourth, but in E, V is second. And so E is out. 17, the answer must be C. And then as a rule, I always take the correct answer and I put it on my board. And so I take a look at it and it is R, T, M, V, W, S, P. And then to keep myself organized, I will take my handy ruler and I will separate the row, and I'll go on to the next question. So again, to answer these questions, what we do is we take the rules one by one. We take one rule, we compare it against all 5 answer choices, and see which answer choices break that rule. We cross out those answer choices. Then we go on to rule 2, and then rule 3, and it will leave you with one answer choice that breaks no rules. If we have to double check, if we're not sure of our work, go ahead and double check. And so we take the answer that we wrote down, and we check it against all of our rules. Is T before W? Yes. Are R and M separated by 1 in that order? Yes. Is S next to P? Yes. And is V in 3 or 4? Yes. So C is our answer. And we go on to number 18. So let me scroll down to number 18. There it is. Okay. If S is in the 7th position, which of the following could be the position that T is in? Notice what I'm doing, by the way. As I read, even as I read to myself, I do not say the names of the variables out loud. I replace them with their first letters because that's what I'm using on my board. As a habit, it's good to get into that so that we don't have to then translate the name into the letter as we go. We do it as a matter of course, and it saves us fractions of a second every time we do it, but those fractions add up, and they certainly add up to mental strain. So make sure you do that. So if S is in the 7th position, the first thing I do is I take that condition and I put it on the board. I say, okay, I'm going to put S in the 7th position. And I like to put a box around it because that tells me I'm anchoring that for the entire question. In this question, S is in the 7th position. Okay, given that, which of the following could be the position that T is in? second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth. Two ways to go about this. The first thing I suggest is always to take the thing that you ever write on the board and circle back to your rules. Where in my rules do I talk about S? And if you look closely at the rules, hey, I talk about S in that third rule. S has to be next to P. What does that mean? Well, in this question, if S is 7th, does that force P to be somewhere? It does. It forces P to be 6th. And so I'm going to put a box around that too, because that was forced to be there. I've written down P. Let me go back to the rules. Do I say anything else about P? No. Do I say anything else about S? No. This is where I stop, and now I start to brute force. So again, I've got number 18, A, B, C, D, E. And I say, okay, which of the following can T be in? Can I put T second? The question asked could be true, so my job is to try each of them. One of them won't break any rules. The other 4, when I attempt them, will break a rule, and they can't be the answer. So let me try to put T second and see if I can create a scenario that works. There's T second. When I do that, what do I know? Well, I know that W has to come after it somewhere, and I know that R and M have to be split by 1 spot. I also know that V has to be either 3rd or 4th. Okay, it seems to me that the R and the M is the hardest one to put down. What happens if I put R and M here? That certainly seems to be a possibility open to me. If that's true, I know that W has to come after T, but I also know that V has to be 3rd or 4th. That means W and V are going to be battling for that 4th spot, and they both have to be there, which they can't be, which means I can't put T second and R and M 3rd and 5th. Okay, that can't be where I put R and M. What if I put R and M 1st and 3rd, which seems to be the only other possibility for me? Well, now I can put V 4th and W 5th, just like I had in answer choice 1. And that's a big clue. If I've done it before, man, that's the way I should do it. That's why we write down our previous answers. It gives us clues as to what's possible. You learn your lessons from previous iterations that you've done. I think this is going to pass muster, and I think the answer to 18 is going to be A. We're going to confirm by checking this against my rules again. Is T before W? Yes. Is R split by M by 1 in that order? Yes. Are S and P next to each other? Yes. Is V 3rd or 4th? Yes. The answer to 18 is A. Now we can go through and confirm, and I encourage you in your blind review, right? After you've done it the first time, you go back and you're going to do blind review. Blind review isn't about making sure you've got the right answers. Blind review is about working everything out, strengthening your muscles. And so I would go through and put T 3rd. And when you do, you realize, hey, that means V has to be 4th, that means W has to be 5th, and that means R and M can't be split by 1. So I can't put T 3rd. Same problem with putting T 4th. If I put it 4th, V has to be 3rd, that means W has to be 5th, and R and M have no room, right? But you go through that whole process so that you can show why the other ones are wrong in addition to that one being correct. On a time section, you don't have time to do all of that. So once you've confirmed the right answer, great, I've confirmed the right answer. I'm going to draw a row line, and I'll move on to number 19. If P is in the 5th position, first thing we do, we take P and we put it in the 5th position, right? Don't mess around. Write it down. Okay, if P is 5th, which of the following must be true? Must be true is a totally different question from could be true. Must be true means that 4 of them can be false. So my job then is going to be go through the deductive process, if I have to, but then one by one, can I make these things false? If I can, they are not the correct answer. And the one that I can't make false, well, that means that must be true. Because it's very hard to show that something must be true. It's true in every circumstance. But it's very easy to show that something can be false. I only have to do it once. Okay. So let's presume that we're just going to start here. P in the fifth position, no deductions, no nothing. We're just going to attempt to make the questions false. How do we do that? Well, it says in 19A, M is in the fourth position. So I'm going to put M anywhere else. Anywhere else. And if I can get M anywhere else, then A doesn't have to be true. So I'm going to learn my lessons from the combinations above me. Now I've got P in a new position. I've never put it before. But I'm going to look up and I'm going to say, you know what? I bet if I put S sixth and W seventh and leave R, T, M, V the way they always had been, I'm probably not going to break any rules, and I'm going to double check it. T before W, R split by 1 by M, P is next to S, and V is either third or fourth. That was fine, and I don't have M fourth. That means that 19A is not my answer, because I've demonstrated that it can be false. I'm going to put out B, C, D, and E as well, and I'll move on to B. R is second. Well, take a look at the one I just showed. I've got P fifth, my condition, and I don't have R second. That means B can be false under that circumstance. S sixth. Ugh, I've got S sixth in this one. So C has to stay in, but I'm going to check D and E anyway. T first. I don't have T first in that one I just wrote down, so it doesn't have to be D. V third. I don't have V third. It doesn't have to be E either. It must mean that when I put P in the fifth position, that S has to be sixth. We can probably deduce this, right? The only other place for P to be would be fourth, right? Because for S to be is to be fourth, because it has to be next to P. So if we were to put S fourth, that would force V third, and we would have 3, 4, and 5 filled, and that would mean R and M have no place to go. But making that deduction is challenging, whereas just showing that 4 of them can be false is pretty easy, because I had most of my clues already from the work I had already done. So I really didn't need to do all that much to make it happen. And so now we can go on to number 20. So I will make my row line here, and I'll move on to number 20. Any one of these could be in the third position except. So just like before, can be, in this case it's except, but can be means I put it on the page and see if I'm allowed to do it and I don't break rules. But as opposed to number 8, which is which of the following could be true, only one of them was going to work. In this case, 4 of them are going to work and 1 of them won't work. Well, the good news is I already know that A can work. I know I can put M in the third position because I've done it already in all of my different correct answers. So I know A is already out. Can I put R in the third position? Let me try. R goes there, circle to my rules. What happens when I put R someplace? I gotta put M someplace. M has to go 1 away from it. Now that I've occupied the third position and the fifth position, what else do I know? I know that V has to go fourth. There's V. And now I'm left with P and S and T and W, both of whom are related to each other. As long as I have T before W, and as long as I have S and P next to each other, I don't think it matters where I put them. And I already know that P and S are very happy in the 6th and 7th positions, right? So I'm going to put them there, and I'm going to put T and W in the correct order up front. And I'm going to double check that I didn't break a rule. T before W, R split by M by 1, P next to S, and V is third or fourth. Great, which means R can be third. No problem. B is not the answer. Can I make S third? Okay, let me try it. So So I'll make a row line. I'm going to put S third. What do I know about S? It has to be next to P. That means P has to be second or fourth. But I'm going to learn my lesson. I know V's got to be fourth now because V has to be third or fourth, which means P is going to be second and V is going to be fourth. I'm going to look at the rest of my rules. I need T before W, and I need R and M split by 1. R and M's harder to place because it takes up more space. And I only have one spot for it. They have to go 5th and 7th. That forces T and W 1 and 6. But I think I haven't broken any rules. I'm going to double check against my rules because I always want to be sure. T is before W, R split by 1 by M. P and S are next to each other, and V is fourth. That's fine. That means S can go third. And that means C is not my answer. And I move on to D and E. Well, this is pretty good news, I hope. It means I only have 2 more to check, and in fact, I only have 1 more to check. Because if T works, that means W is my answer. And if T doesn't work, then it's my answer. So I'm going to put T third. Okay, with T third, I've now learned V is going to have to be fourth. R and M have to be split by 1, right? R, M, P and S have to be next to each other, so I'll put them up front. And that forces W 6th. That seems to be okay. We're going to check. T before W, R and M split by 1, P and S next to each other, V is fourth. Everything looks okay. It means W's got to be my answer, but I'm going to confirm because we're in a confirming mood. And I'm going to try to put W there. That forces V there. What else do I know? R and M have to be split by 1. R, M, don't have a choice. That's the only spot they can go where they're split by 1. I need P and S next to each other. The only place they can go is up front. That would force T in this position, and I write it in red because guess what I did? I broke the first rule. W in third forced it into this order, but this order breaks a rule. And so I know that E is now my answer. I know that that solution breaks a rule. And I can move on to number 21. Let me scroll ourselves over to the other column of questions here. Okay, number 21. If R and M are both between T and W. Ooh, have I even done that before? Let's look. Do I have a place where R and M are both between T and W? Not in the first one, not in the second one, not in the third one, not in the fourth one, not in the fifth one, not in the sixth one. I've never done it before. I'm not even sure how I would do it. But we're going to try to make it happen. So we want to get R and M between the T and W. So we're going to make a row line down here under my bad solution that I don't want to keep anymore. Let's try to make it happen and try to make one of the answers happen. So I know that T can go first. I'm going to try it there. And I know that W can go last because I've had it there as well. So let's make that happen. And then what are the choices for R and M? 2 and 4, 3 and 5, or 4 and 6, right? Because they have to be split. But P and S have to be next to each other, right? So I need to leave room for them. So I think I can do this. R, M, P, S, and V. And I think I've followed all my rules. Let's try it. T is before W. R is split by M by 1. P and S are next to each other. And V is in the third position. I'm okay. Are any of the answer choices represented in this? Is P fifth? Yes. That can be true. I just did it. I don't know how I landed there, except by trying stuff. Because sometimes you just got to try stuff. You don't know how it's going to work out. But if I want R and M both between T and W, I want to make T and W as wide as possible. And then I have to figure out where R and M can go and where P and S can go. Now, it turns out that this is about the only way it could work out. If I put R and M third and fifth, that forces V fourth, and P and S have no place to go. If I put R and M fourth and sixth, that forces V third, and P and S have no place to go. So it turned out this was the only way that it could have worked. But it worked. And 21 is A. So, won't even bother with the other ones. And I'll move on to 22. So let me put my row line here. 22. If there is exactly one painting between T and W, which of the following must be true? Okay, where have I done that before? Not in the first row, not in the second row, not in the third row, not in the fourth row, not in the fifth row, not in the sixth row, not in the seventh row. I've never done it with T and W split by only one. How am I going to make it happen? Well, again, I may just have to take a flyer here and try some stuff and see what works out. Let me extend my column lines down a little bit. I didn't make them long enough. What would it mean for T and W to be split by 1? Well, they have lots of places they can go. They can go first and third. They can go second and fourth. They can go third and fifth, right? They can go lots of places. I'm going to have to start somewhere. But thinking about it isn't going to help me. And if I don't have an idea about how to deduce it, I'm just going to do it. Let me try them first and third. If I do that, V's got to be fourth. If I do that, R and M must be here, and P and S have no place to go. So T and W can't go first and third. Let me try them second and fourth. Oops, sorry, that's an R, not a T. Let me try them second and fourth. That forces V here. That still forces R and M there. And P and S still have no place to go. Now I'm starting to learn something. If I put them third and fifth, that forces V here, and R and M have no place to go. I'm learning a lot. What if I put them fourth and sixth? Forces V there. Now P and S and R and M have a possibility. P, S, and actually it could go the other way as well, so I want to make sure I account for that. And then R and M go there. So that's certainly possible. And then if I put T and W here, then I might have more choices, but not really, because P and S have to be together, right? They can't go third and fourth. If they go second and third, V would go fourth, and then I'm screwed for R and M. So it means I think I still need P and S here and here, which forces R, M, V. But either way, those are my only two ways to get T and W split by only one. So which of those things in 22 must be true? The M doesn't have to be seventh. It was only seventh one of the times. P doesn't have to be first because it could be SP instead of PS. R didn't have to be fourth. One time it was T, the other time it was R. T didn't have to be second, but V was third both times. V had to be third. I can't do it with V not being third, which means 22 must be E. So I'll put that there. And finally, we get number 23. If T is next to V, which of the following pairs is a pair of paintings, which of the following is a pair of paintings, in which the one mentioned first is first? Closer to the entrance is first. So when T is next to V, which of the following is in the correct order? Well, do I have T next to V ever? Not in the first, not in the second, not in the third, not in the fourth, not in the fifth. Right? Where do I have it? Oh, I've got it here. That's good. I've got T next to V there. And I also have T next to V here. So let's check those to see if I can eliminate any of the ones in 23. because it's a must be true, right? Must be closer to the entrance. So if I can show that any of them are false, are not true in any iteration, then they're not the right answer. They don't have to be true. So let me write out my A, B, C, D, E. Does P have to be before S? And the answer is no. It can go in either direction, right? Look at that second one that I put the arrow next to. It could go PS or SP. It's actually true of the first one, too. It's not A. Does R have to be before W? It would seem to be in both, so I have to leave it around. Does T have to be before V? No, not according to the second one. It goes VT. C's out. It doesn't have to be VT. It could be TV, like in the first one. So D's out. Does it have to be WR? No, the first one says RW. E's out, and that leaves B as my only answer. So as you can see, with a game like this, you don't have to make deductions ahead of time and determine how the game works ahead of time to solve the questions. The questions can be done by writing out answers one by one and showing that they do or do not follow the rules and eliminating answers. Now, obviously, over the course of the last half hour, we've done this in a very slow, meticulous, and very neat way with my chart, and I've wasted a lot of time gabbing at you. In truth, when you get good at this process, this can be done in a game in as little as 5 or 6 minutes. Especially since we're not going to double check the rest of the answers. Once we get the one we want, we go. When we see the one we think is right, we show that it's correct, and we go, and we don't waste any time in between talking about the reasons why. So I hope that clears up some of the mystery around brute force approaches to linear games, really to all games. It's not much different in grouping games or in hybrid games other than what the board looks like. Thanks so much for watching, and hope you enjoyed the video.